hello, Andy Hahn, Dr. Hahn, and hello, Robert F. Burke. How are you doing?
Good.
Awesome. Now, so today we are going to allow Dr. Andy Hahn to show his healing technique. And he's talked about it in the YouTube End of Suffering and End of Suffering 2.0. You guys, if you haven't watched that, do it, okay? And that's an order. Mama has spoken. But Robert, you want to tell first about what's been ailing you?
Well, you know, the main thing I can think of is, or I was telling you about, is PTSD, which I think you and I can both relate to that.
Oh.
You know, experiencing traumas. And I mean, I believe that when it comes to that kind of thing, PTSD, or, well, ultimately, I think everything is coming from an emotional place. I think it's just where you just can't accept the fact that something happened, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, you try, but, you know.
What do you want to talk about? What kind of trauma you've had? You don't want to, that's okay.
Oh, no. It's probably important, I guess. That
By the way, he's a medium, guys, and Erik, before you even knew who Erik was, would hound him, make him watch television programs or movies that he didn't want to watch. He would throw Twizzlers off the shelves and Lucky Charms and stuff into his grocery cart. And Robert is such a health nut. So
right, I don't eat sweets. not like that. No Twizzlers.
He talks to Erik all the time. Just
Yeah, and by the way, I think too that my interactions with Erik has been very emotionally healing. I'll say that for sure, because it gives you peace with knowing that. I mean, well, first I'll finish my statement. It gives you peace, you know, with knowing that there's so much more than just what you're experiencing in this life. So it kind of helps to put things in perspective with the traumas and things we might experience. They're temporary, they're transient and stuff. But still, I've just encountered that the human mind, that part of us still rooted in this heavy place, it just has a hard time. It crops up and can get in the way sometimes. Yeah. And it's very difficult sometimes to recenter, to find your place of you know, to ground yourself and that kind of thing. And, you know, I found, you know, I have practices and things that I have to do. Sometimes I just have to be alone when I start to find myself ungrounded, so that I can, and I've always actually been kind of the person to stick to myself anyway. So that's just part of who I am. And so I go back to how I am naturally, and it helps me to find that center again.
Well, Dr. Hahn, do you want him to talk about his worst trauma, or do you want him to go through more than one?
Erik, first of all, just so I can know Robert, do you know anything about what I do? Because I don't even know if you know what I do, and if you don't know, you know, we are going to be in the same team, so like I should probably tell you, and even if you do know, I should probably explain it, because some people won't. But do you know what I do at all? I mean, from
what I understand, I read a little bit about you, and I understand you have a psychology background or psychiatry background. I'm not sure if it's one.
I'm a licensed clinical psychologist.
Yeah.
You know, formal incarnation.
Yeah. So you have that background and that expertise, and then you seem to bridge the spiritual side of things, that part of us that's more rooted in energy, into all of that. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense to me. I think you're right. Let me just give you an elevator talk about what I believe, so that what we'll be doing will make sense. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So basically what I believe is that everything that we suffer about, I think basically suffering and trauma are the same thing. So I think trauma is when you can't handle and integrate something.
Right.
So post-traumatic stress is, I think, just something you can't handle and integrate. And when you can't handle and integrate something, I think that's what suffering is. So,
right.
So I think all healing is helping you master what you couldn't handle and integrate in the first place. And when you master it, one of two things happens. Either your problem goes away, or your suffering that's related to your problem goes away, and then you don't have any anxiety or judgmentalism or anything. You just say, okay, so that happened, but it doesn't have power over me.
Right.
That's the basic idea.
Can I
Go ahead.
tell you real quick how I would define that, just so maybe somebody else could relate? I would say that mastery, in the simplest terms, is just about being okay with the fact that something happened that you couldn't control, and that may have left you with physical or mental scars, but that's just something, you just have to be okay with it, and it's something that is no longer in the present anymore. And
exactly. Yes, I would say what you and our definitions, except yours was slightly more wonderfully like human.
Oh, you both did a great job.
Yeah.
So let me tell you how I think it works, because that may be what you've known before, maybe not. When there's something you can't handle and you're not okay with it, in that moment, a sensation is born, some kind of discomfort. So like if you're anxious and I say, Robert, what happens when you're anxious? And you say, oh, my heart's pounding faster, my throat's closing up. I would then say, it's not you that's anxious, it's throat closing up that's anxious. And it was born in a moment, just like Robert was born in a moment. And if we could find out the moment it was born and be in a different relationship with it, then whatever's associated with it will just start to dissolve. And so what I do with people essentially is I find out the most important thing for them to work on, where they're most stuck. And then I invite them to choose to become the thing that they couldn't be handled by focusing on the body sensation. So as soon as you choose to focus on it, it's no longer that you're automatically reliving it, it's that you are choosing to experience it while simultaneously like witnessing it or hosting it. So you then become the one who's aware of it, as opposed to the one who's living it out over and over and over again. And it will share its story with you, and it will tell you whether it's a younger you or you from, if you believe in other lifetimes, from another lifetime or whatever. It will share with you if it needs anything more than just to be able to share its story while you're witnessing it. And as soon as that happens, you go from the one who's reliving it to the one who says, I'm okay with it, and I'm just remembering it. And from that point of view, everything we're suffering about, while on a human level it is awful, right? On a soul level, they're all clues to the thing that we couldn't handle and integrate. So if you have back pain, for example, and I'm working with you on chronic back pain, and it says it's energetic, on some level the chronic back pain will be life's best clue to share with you what it is that couldn't be mastered. And so by focusing on back pain, something will come to you, and that will be whoever this is who couldn't master whatever's associated with back pain. And just by finding it, by choosing to experience it and sharing it while you're witnessing it, puts you into a different relationship with it. And that's essentially all I do. I mean, in a simple.
Oh, that's all, eh? So do you want him to share?
I want him to share. Robert, I want you to share only one thing, okay? Because I obviously don't know you, Robert, but I only want to know one thing, which is if you could have anything you desired for yourself, for you in a collective, whatever it is, anything you desired, even if you weren't sure it was possible, what would you intend to get from our time? What would you really want to get from it? So you said, I got exactly what I would hope for. That's all I want to know. And it could be one thing or it could be more than one thing. You just tell me. Then I'll write it down.
Usually it's a swirl of different things that happen that I'm like, okay, yeah. A sense of security, feeling, that things are fine, things are okay. A sense of security.
That's a good one.
Because I'll say that, when I have these episodes, because I do have these episodes where I'll be fine, and then all of a sudden things will just kind of like, I don't know, like something will click off in my brain, and then I'll feel like I don't have, like I'm in I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it's a type of dissociation or something, where I'm like not really thinking of anything, but there's this feeling of I don't know who the artist is. I don't know if it's Van Gogh or
Edward Monk, where he goes, that.
Yeah, but it's a screamer. It's like that.
I think I just channeled you. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it's like that. It's like the screamer is going on in my head, and that's the energy of the way that feels.
That's what I had right after Erik died for months and months of just.
Yeah, and it's definitely trauma induced, and it could be brought on by, say for instance, I get like a pain in my neck or something, right? Then all of a sudden I'll start to disassociate because I'm like, oh my God, this pain is terrible, and then I'm like, gone, and I may stay like that for weeks, where I'm like freaked out or something in my head, even if the pain gets better and stuff. And I know that that's coming from just too many experiences, both physical and emotional, where, my brain, the human brain just couldn't cope with it anymore. And, I can come out of it if I, do meditation and yoga. And many of the things that you mentioned earlier, my way of doing that is seeing it as if I'm watching a movie, and so that I can get like a different perspective. So it's like I'm living it as Robert, but yet I feel like I'm seeing it from above that. I did that over... and I don't know, I used to do that much more heavily when things were even worse. Now things are better than they used to be, because it used to be I felt that state constantly, where it was just this constant always in my head, and and that's gotten a lot better, but it still creeps up now and then. And like I said,
right, I mean, like shoulders always bother you, or what is it? Not only that, but your thoracic spine.
Yeah, well, the thoracic spine, that's gotten better, but yeah, a lot of that was just, I know it was just from, inactivity and things like that, and just getting older too. But yeah, my neck on the right side and the shoulder and stuff, that'll lock up. But I found
it's really weird when you channel Erik, that side of your neck turns bright red. I don't know if that means anything.
Yeah, I noticed that will happen. Maybe he's giving me some healing or something in that moment, because I actually don't feel pain when I'm doing those kinds of things.
Okay.
So, and I know that some of that is tension related, because if I don't feel tension and things like that, then those kinds of things don't bother me as much. But yeah, there's just been lots of trauma, physical and emotional, that started when I was young.
Okay.
And so it's created this sense of insecurity.
Take over the show, Dr. Andy.
So let me just make sure. So what I get is that you'd like a sense of security. You'd like to feel like things are okay. There is some kind of thing that feels almost like dissociation. And when that happens, like you're in like something else, and it's like almost something takes over, like the screamer. You have pain in the neck, and I'm going to sneeze. And you can choose to be above it, and what I would call that is choosing to disassociate, but it might be that you're choosing to remember a time that you dissociated, so instead of staying in your body, you might have gone above it because it was just too painful. And you might have taken that on now as a way of doing things, just as a way of not feeling so bad, so you can choose to do naturally what you may have done automatically at some point, is what I'm gathering. Have I maybe understood what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think for me, a part of the when I would see myself above it and everything, it was this way of me trying to see it as if it's just a temporary experience, and this isn't going to last forever. And like that analyzing part of my mind was trying to reconcile all of that and to say it'll be okay. So it was a kind of self-soothing, and I would say that then started to become a habit, and maybe that's where this disassociation would come on, and I'd be more aware of the fact that it would come on, because in the past I wouldn't necessarily be aware that would come on.
I understand.
Until I would go and do meditation and see myself above it, and then I would be aware that's what was going on.
Well, what it sounds, I mean, in my little field, there's two different words. One is called dissociation and one is called disassociation. And dissociation is when it happens automatically as a defense. Like if you're getting beaten up and it's too painful, you automatically go out of your body because it's just too painful to stay there. Disassociation, which I think you're teaching us about, is when you choose to go out of your body so you can witness something by choice because it's painful and it gives you a sense of perspective. And it's a very wonderful tool, actually. So I think
it also makes you feel like you have a little bit of power,
right?
You know, and what was it you said just a minute? Oh, I know what I was going to say too. You know, and I'm sure I don't know if other people will get this, but to me, that screamer, the picture of the screamer, that is a visual manifestation of the terror,
right?
That I know is in there, because there is definitely it's a kind of terror that I don't think people. Maybe people. I think Elisa for sure can relate to that.
Yeah.
It's very,
well, what I'd say to you about that is sometimes it's a visual manifestation, like it's a metaphor, but sometimes it's literal, and you're literally remembering a time that you were in such terror that you were screaming, but you may not know that it was literal. And so those memories come back in a very particular way, and they actually are literal narratives, but of course we don't know that, so they feel more like they're just symbols or metaphors, but I can actually find that out. Mm-hmm. The way I find these things out is I use a process called muscle testing. Do you know muscle testing? Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you then about muscle testing because you have to understand it in order for us to do this, and then we're going to do this work. What I have to do is access the part of you that just knows what's going on, all right? And in order to do that, I have to talk to you about levels of wisdom, and I'm going to talk to you about a few of them. So the first level of wisdom is what we call the wisdom of your conscious mind. That's what you can logically figure out, right? So if I say, Robert, what's your name? And you say, I can figure that out. My name's Robert. Or I say, Robert, how much is 2 + 2? You say, I can figure that out. It's 4. But if I say, Robert, how come you have this screamer still there? And what should you do about it? You'd say, if I knew the answer to that, I wouldn't be doing this session with you. Mm-hmm. So what I'd say is the wisdom of our conscious mind, it's very limited. So we'll say it has the power of 1. The second kind of wisdom, it's called the wisdom of the unconscious mind. So an image comes to you like that, or a dream comes to you, or coincidences that don't seem like coincidences. It comes in a lot of ways, this wisdom. And if either it's a deeper level of wisdom or it doesn't exist, because if you try to figure out a dream, or you say, you know, I have to figure out logically why that thing is coming to me and I have to figure it out, from my point of view, you'll never get to the bottom of it. So I actually think it's a deeper level. And I would say if the first one has the power of 1, the conscious mind has the power of 1, the wisdom of the unconscious mind, I think it's like has the power of the speed of light. And I think dreams or visions like the one you have, they're like letters from your soul. Is soul okay language with you? If I say soul?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I figured. I just never know because some people have they're mediums, but they say, no, but I'm an atheist. I mean, it's like, I don't know. So I just check. But, but I think they're like letters from your soul, but sometimes we don't know how to open them up. So we have to find out the ones who can really open those things. Then there's the third level. And the third level is very important for the muscle testing because the third level doesn't have a lot of good words in the West, although we've incorporated some. So in the East, there's a lot of good words like Qi, like if you're in China, like Tai Chi, or Ki, if you're in Japan, like Reiki, or it's called Prana, or it's called Shakti. It's called a lot of things in Aboriginal cultures. There's no good word for it in the sort of rational West. So we could call it the wisdom and energy that animates you. And also the deepest knowing. So it's an interesting thing to say that your life force, that which keeps you alive, is also your deepest intuitive knowing. And you can know it in 2 ways, and both of them are important. The first way you know it is when you just know something is the truth. It's not like you figure it out. It's not even like you have an emotion about it. You just say, I just know this is true for me. So whatever that would be, you say, I have to go and do this thing. And someone says, you're crazy. It's not logical. And you say, maybe crazy and not logical, but I know it's true for me. Do you know what I'm talking about, that kind of intuition?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So it also comes in literally, and this is why it's also very interesting. It comes in when you do something that from any rational point of view you couldn't do. So let's say, I mean, if we took a difficult example, let's say one of Elisa's children was a toddler and a car started to roll and rolled over the toddler. And she had to get that baby out of it, and it's a 2,000-pound car, and suddenly women Elisa's size pick up the car enough so that baby, that toddler, can crawl out. And if they tried to do it through their willpower, then they would also have pains in their back, but they just lift up the car. And if you say, how could you do that? They don't say, I used my willpower. They said, I just knew I could do it. And they lift up the car.
Right.
So what happens is when you're in alignment with something that's true for you, you literally get much more power. And when you're not in alignment with something that's true for you, you literally don't, you get stronger. And when you aren't in alignment, you actually get less strong. So that's why people, when they're saying, I'm doing what's right for me, they feel like they can carry the world on their shoulders and it wouldn't be anything else. But if they're not, it's like a big burden, even if it's very light. Because when you're in alignment with the truth, everything lines up and you literally get more powerful.
Hey,
what?
I was going to interrupt for just a second. I'm sorry to break your flow. Because I just see that that I think that the thing that causes us to fall out of alignment, like for instance myself, and anything connected to trauma, is that we believe that it's brokenness.
Yes.
And so then you just feel like, oh, well, there's no way to come back from this. Right. And then you start losing hope, and then you lose awareness of your power.
Totally. I would say trauma acts like static. It's exactly what you say. It's like it blocks being able to access this, because when you're traumatized, it's like you're reliving the thing you couldn't handle. So of course you're stuck and you get weak and you get symptomatic and you get everything. Mm-hmm. So what I have to do is I have to find a way to bypass that, because if I'm going to ask you about something that's traumatized you, you're going to be stuck in the one that's weak and the one that's like has lost hope and the one that is anxious and the one that is judgmental, as opposed to the one that just says yes. And I can say yes to everything. I can be okay with everything. And so what I do is I ask the body to be a means of communication for this part of you that we would call I just know. And so we ask your body to do that. And really what happens then is if I ask a question and your body gets stronger, the answer to the question is yes. And if I ask a question and your body isn't as strong, then the answer to the question is no. And your body becomes like a truth teller. And we can ask it anything we want. And as long as it's in the service of your healing and evolving, we get very high answers. If we do it in the service of your ego, like you say, well, you know what, I think I would like to have, a vacation right now because I'm feeling lazy. So tell me the lottery numbers and I'm going to go, and get umbrella drinks. It will give you a very dense answer. But in the service of healing trauma, it gives high vibrational answers. Now, the only problem now then is I'm not sitting with you. So I can't literally say, put out your arm and I'm going to press. And when something is true, your arm will stay strong. And I could sit on it because you'd be like that mother and you'd get very, very strong. And no matter how hard I pushed, your arm would stay up. And if it wasn't true for you, no matter how hard you try to keep your arm up, I could push very lightly with one finger and your arm would go down. And then we could ask anything we wanted. But the problem is you're in wherever, Houston or wherever, I don't know where you are, but you're certainly not in Waltham, Massachusetts, which is where I am, and I'm certainly not where you are. So then I have to tell you about another level because I'm going to have to stand in for you. And in order to understand that, you have to go to an even deeper level of wisdom that's kind of infinite. And in the infinite levels of wisdom, as you know, everything is one. And so what you could say is we're like holograms, or we're like mystical cells in a mystical body. So if we think about our cells in our body, right, there are about 3 trillion cells. And each one of them on the surface is unique. You couldn't find 2 if you looked at the surface of it. Theoretically, you could never find 2 that were exactly alike. But in the template, in the blueprint, they have to be exactly alike because you could take one cell, and if you had enough information, you could clone the body simultaneously the way it is right now. So that one cell has to have access to everything, and it is everything. And it's not that information travels, It's all happening simultaneously, which is why you could clone it. Or if you know, you're an artist of some kind. I don't know if you are, but you know about holograms? Do you know about holograms? Well, if you take an enormous holographic plate like the size of the universe and you broke it into trillions and trillions of pieces, each one in this dimension, you'd never find two that looked exactly the same, but each one holds the whole universe. So what I do is I ask to align with the blueprint, and then I ask to become you, which I am anyway, and then I muscle test. And when I muscle test, it's like I ask to stand aside, and I ask to focus on the blueprint, and then when I say I'm Robert, it'll say yes, and when I say I'm Andy, it will say no, and I start muscle testing myself. And the way I do it, I do it a lot of ways. There are a lot of ways to muscle test. So you can do it like this, give me a yes, give me a no, and it stays strong, it goes weak. But the way I do it, which you'll be able to see, is I say give me a yes, and my body just naturally goes forward like a pendulum. And I say give me a no, and it goes backwards. And then I ask to stand in, so I'm muscle testing you. So it's like I would focus on the part of the template that is the mystical cell called Robert. And I would focus away from the one called Andy. And it's like I'd bring all my attention there, and you and I, from that point of view, are one. And I can ask to intentionally bring my attention specifically to that place. And then I just start getting answers as though I'm you, as best I can. Now, I'm not a totally pure channel, although every time I do a session, I do a prayer and I do centering practice to say I really want the personality of Andy not to really get in the way as best I'm able to. Now, the other thing to say is, ultimately, you're the expert. So if something doesn't seem right to you, you can say, Andy, you know what, I don't think so. And it's your session, and your job is to tune in. My job is to just get information for you. And I'm going to try to get information about what you really need to work on and where you're stuck and what needs to happen. And it might be something you said, or it might be nothing you said, but I'll try to find out. And that's how it works, okay? So here's how it will look. I'll say, give me a yes, and my body just falls forward. And I say, give me a no, my body just falls backwards. And I don't do that, it just happens. So I say, give me a yes, give me a no, give me a yes. And I ask, then I'd say, if I want to focus on you to get answers for you, I'm going to muscle test. I'm going to be the one doing the muscle testing, but I'm also going to be the one muscle tested. I'm also the one who's going to hold the container. So I'm sort of get to be all of it. And I just ask to be you, because I can't say, put out your arm through the computer, right? So we say, I'll just say, I'm Robert, and it says yes. And I'll say, I'm Andy, and it says no. And now I'm focused. I mean, I'm both, but I'm now focused to try to set an intention to just get answers that are really for your highest good and without my being in the way. And then we see where we are. So the first thing we ask is, are we fully in healing presence? And it says yes. And healing presence is an aspect of soul. So it's like the part of us that makes us whole and, helps us remember who we truly are. And then we're going to say, are we simply balanced? And that says yes also. And simply balanced means your body's ready to do the work, and mine is too. So it's like there are several things, like you're hydrated enough and a lot of that stuff. Because if you're not, then we get a little bit funky answers. And are we fully checked in? And that says yes also. And what that means is you've said everything I need to know so I can be of service here. Okay? So now we're going to find out what we're going to do. So we're going to say, the one we call Robert, that's you. Do you know the very best way to proceed? And we ask you. And it says no. So I'm not going to ask you what to do. You haven't said, oh, I'm supposed to do something I know. It says, you don't know the best way to proceed. So shall Andy find the best way to proceed? And it says yes. And so shall we do healing work? And it says yes. Shall we do what I would call, as Andy, a standard balance? And it says yes. And a standard balance only means that something's out of balance, but you already know because you're going like this. And I would say that means something isn't in alignment, as you would say, or something you're not able to say everything is okay. That's all this means. And it says we have to work on a place you're stuck. That's what a standard balance is. So now we're going to find out what we're going to work on. So we're going to say, the one we call Robert, you have a highest intention, and is that what we're to do? And it says yes. And now I'm going to find out what it is. So your highest intention is it any, some, or all of what you said? And it said no. So it said nothing you said is the most important thing for us to work on. Okay? So now I'm going to find out if we can do it anyway, because it's a free will universe. Even though nothing you said is your highest intention, can we choose to work directly on any, some, or all of those things anyhow? And it says we can't do that. And there's typically only one reason. which is you're seeing the symptoms or the manifestations of a deeper intention. So this screaming isn't the problem. It arose from some other thing, and you're seeing a result of something, but that's not the thing itself. Or your lack of security, it says that's not the problem. It's the result of something else. It's like you want to build a house and there's a crack in a foundation, but you may not know there's a basement, so the house won't hold, right? That's all it says so far. So we can't work on these things, and I'm going to find out is the reason we can't work directly on them is because there is something that's more important to them, foundational to them, and affecting all of them and other things also. And it says yes to that. So we know that there's something going on, and it's affecting the thing you call PTSD. It's affecting the thing that you call I'm not okay with something. It's keeping you from feeling a sense of security. It's related to this. It's related to the stuff you talked about the neck pain, insofar as it's there, because it said in some way it's related to everything you said. That's what we know. So everything you said is kind of a clue to what this thing is, but it's not the thing itself. So let's see if you could go in and find it. You might say, oh, I know what it is, Andy, and maybe you do. So the one we call Robert, could you go inside and you find it, and we ask you. It says you can't find it. So sitting there right now, in the place of everything isn't okay, you can't go in and say, oh, I know what it is intuitively, because you're in it. Well, right. So shall I find it? Yes. Do I find it intuitively? No. Do I find it on a list? Yes. So am I looking for some kind of universal pattern? Yes. So what I know what you're looking at is some kind of universal theme. So universal themes are things like neglect or betrayal, or I can't let go of something, or something so wonderful happened that I've craved it forever and I keep trying to live it out, or I'm carrying a grudge. There are all these sort of mythic universal patterns, and it says all of this stuff, the best way to get at it is to find out what that universal theme is that you're traumatized around. Or it could be violence, or it could be loss. I mean, there's like a lot of them. And hopefully we've mapped out most of them, and it says you're stuck in one of them, or more than one of them. So that's what we have to find, some kind of pattern. Are we looking for one made up of one? Are we looking for one made up of more than one, or more than one? So we're looking for one pattern. It's not like neglect and betrayal we're going to look at them together. We're looking for one theme only, okay? So we're going to find out what it is. So is it a standard pattern in life-centered therapy in a standard form? And it says yes. Is it some other kind of pattern, like a Jungian pattern, for example? Because there are a lot of Jungian archetypes, and those I don't spell out in my, but it says no to that. So it's something in the framework I know called life-centered therapy. So I have three categories of them. It better only be one of them, because it says you're only looking for one pattern, and I have to find out what it is for you. That's my job. And then your job is to transform it by going into it. So is it what we call a single center pattern? It's not that one. Is it what we call a major energetic pattern? It is that one. Is it what we call an identity pattern? It's not that one. So just simply so we're on the same page, a major energetic pattern means you're stuck in some kind of theme, like betrayal or neglect, or I can't let go, and it means it's done three things to you. It's made you believe things that on a deeper level you know aren't true. So let's say you would say, let's say you said, I'm not worthy of love in this place. And then you say, wait a second, I know everybody's worthy of love, but when I'm feeling this trauma, I don't believe I am. That would be an example of believing something that wouldn't be true. It means that you won't let yourself feel some feeling, and you're not a choice about expression. So it might mean that you won't let yourself feel anger, or you won't let yourself feel hurt, or you won't let yourself feel joy. And the third thing it did was it's affecting your body, which means it's either affecting your boundaries or it's literally affecting your body, and it's showing up as some kind of physical symptom. And it's all out of this one theme, whatever it is, okay? So you believe things that aren't true, you won't let yourself feel some feelings, and it's affecting your boundaries, which means you don't get to choose what goes in and what comes out. So there'll be some kind of boundary violation, which could show up as literally some kind of physical disease or problem. And it's all around whatever this theme is, okay? Now I just have to find the theme. And it's going to be one of them, and when we get to the right one, I'm going to go backwards. So here we go. Split, so it's not that. Multiple, it's not that. Neglect, it's not that. Grudge, it's not that. Death wish, oh, it's a death wish. So we have to work on a death wish. So if you were here, I'd probably do that as an induction. Let me find out if I'm to do that. we have 100% permission to a balance on the death wish? Yes. And is this of everything the highest priority? So let me tell you what a death wish is, and you can tell me, even if it doesn't make any logical sense, if it resonates with you, okay? Like, if we're a large community, right? Like, every it's like, that's what I think we are. I think we're all multiples, essentially. And I think we're a very large community. Soul's a very large community. And what we know is, in your community, someone is experiencing, I want to die. Now, what I want to know is, that muscle test very strong. When I say I want to die and I tune into you, like I almost fall off my chair. All I want to know is, when I have you focus on I want to die, even if it doesn't make any rational sense, might it resonate with you that there's a part of you that experiences I want to die? Does that resonate?
Yep.
So it says, out of everything in the universe, we have to take care of, there could be more than one being in this, and they're experiencing I want to die, and somehow that's related to your neck pain, your lack of security, the terror, all of those things. So those are like, you're remembering something. You could say all of those things are reliving a story, and the story is going to be of some part of you that's experiencing I want to die. And we're going to take care of that part, and hopefully about a half hour from now, it won't be saying that anymore, because it doesn't really want to die. It wants to heal. Okay?
Right.
Okay. Go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Yeah. No, that's true. That is true. And the conflict is, well, so I've like pretty much since I was young, throughout my whole life, I get like, there are people that I loved very much, and then they pass away. And even though I'm a medium, you still miss the physical part of them.
Yeah.
And so, you want to die, to be with them. And, it's kind of scary to be here by yourself when everybody that you love is not here anymore. And then when they do die, it makes, there can be this feeling of, like, I don't know, I don't want to glorify, death or anything like that. I mean, it's equal to everything, but there's this part of you that thinks, what a release for you. We're still here, and there's still so much work, and there's so much heaviness here, and, I try to always be as light as possible, but, there is that part of me that is, ever since I was young, I remember, well, really, honestly, that whole death thing, yeah, it started in my teenage years, actually, when I lost my grandmother, who I loved very much, and she was the first person that actually set me on this whole path of trying to figure out where they all go, because when she died, I didn't see a light in her anymore. Mm-hmm. And I was so worried. I was like, where is she, But I could still hear her and feel her. Yeah. And she visited me in dreams and told me things, and that was all wonderful when I would see her. Yeah. And then in my 20s, all my friends died, all of them, people that I loved so much. Yeah. They all died. Over 30 people, not all of them were close friends, but some of them were, people that I considered family. Yep. And then, I've had my experiences with health issues and things. And, there's that human part of you that wants to keep going. And that's where the conflict is, that part of you that wants to keep going and doesn't want to leave until it's time, because other people are going to be hurt by that. I know what that feels like. At least you know what that feels like. It's just horrible. Oh, yeah. And, so anyway, I don't mean to take up your time with it, but that's exactly the answer. It was always like a whisper in the back of my mind, but I would complicate it with, oh, it's just because I can't let go. I can't, I'm not okay with the things that happen. All of those things are true, but they're louder than what the whisper was, which was, let's just die. You know what I mean? Can't this just be over with already? That was always a whisper, and it's always the whisper that is the truth. It's always that quiet little thing in your mind that is the truth. But your conscious mind is so much louder than that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to try to care for the one who's saying, I can't let go, and who's saying, I want to die. Because all we know is that whoever this is, they couldn't come to peace with either wanting to die or dying. One or the other. I'll find out for you. But theoretically, all the things you're talking about are related to this, except for the fact that usually this pattern starts in one moment. It may have started in your teenage years with your grandmother, but I can find all that out through the muscle testing for you, okay? And although it may not be that at all, because you said this has been there for as far back as you can remember it first, and I trust people when they say stuff like that. So this has been much further back. So we'll find out, okay? So this whole thing that you were just saying, is this all, in a sense, a reliving of something that you're playing out that really is someone who couldn't handle something about either wanting to die or having such a terrible death that they couldn't let go? And it says yes. So that's what we have to work on. So that's it out of everything. And then we're done with that part. So that's what we have to work on, this part of you that's experiencing I want to die. We're going to work on it directly. Yes. Is the next thing to do to find information about story? Yes. All right. Are we looking for one narrative and one point of origin as opposed to like an ongoing thing? So it says this part of you that's saying I want to die and couldn't handle something. It started literally in one moment. It's not an accretion of things. It may have been like one moment that was the moment that was the thing that couldn't be handled, or it could have been an awful situation. But we know we're looking for only one moment, it says. And I'm going to see if I can help you more with that. We're to find out more. We're to find out what lifetime. So does it originate in Robert's lifetime? All right. So that's very interesting. It says it's nothing that happened to you. So if I say other lifetimes, I'm assuming with you that that's going to be something okay, like in reincarnation, or is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so what this is saying is everything that you've talked about here is only an echo of something that probably was worse, and probably somebody who was literally screaming like this because something so horrendous happened to the people they loved or to them that they couldn't handle it, and they probably left their body too soon, especially if it included their dying. So if they leave their body too soon, then I'll just explain this to you because I think that's somewhat what's going on. They know they're dead, but they never experience dying because they're not in their body when they die. And so it's sort of like there's no place to die from. So your experience is, I can't let go. Their experience is, I want to die. And they'll try to do to you, you will relive their story as an echo. So all the things it says you're talking about here are an echo of something that happened to this person. And we know probably that they ended up with some kind of horrendous death. And we know that hasn't happened to you yet. And maybe we can save you from further suffering.
Well, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why is it so important to actually live through the process of death?
Because it isn't for everybody. But usually, let's say this, Elisa, let's say you have this is actually an important longer conversation, particularly given your interest in things. And there's a lot to say about this, and I'm going to say very little right now because I want to honor, time.
Oh, yeah.
Let's suppose you have a terrible death and you know it's going to happen to you, and you say, I don't want to feel that much pain. And you leave your body at that point, so you're still in this dimension. Like, what Robert said, I'm looking at it from above, but I'm still alive. And then they kill your body, right? You never get, most people's experience of dying is that they're fully in their body, and then when their body dies, it's like they leave it behind by choice and leave through the crown of their head and go to the light unless they have unfinished business. But if part of you isn't in the body when it dies, you never get to experience the dying. So it's a funny thing because you're part of the situation, so you must have died, but you're not in the body when the body dies, so you don't experience dying. So that part of you kind of gets stuck here like a ghost.
Okay.
It's like the spirit or that individual needs closure. There's no closure.
Okay.
There's no closure.
A fracture and there's no closure, and things always stay like this instead of
right. They all, exactly. And in a different world, in a more soulful world, we call it a lost soul part. In the psychological world, we say that what happened was that there was a leaving of the body as a way of protecting yourself from that much pain, because you couldn't say okay to it, right? Not like you were Christ saying, okay, you're going to crucify me, no big deal, right? I mean, it's like you're saying, I can't handle it, so you leave, and then you're stuck outside the body, and then there's a fracturing, exactly as you say.
Okay.
And a part of you isn't there. What, Elisa?
That's it. I got it. You can go on. You
So-
may proceed.
What?
You may proceed.
Thank you. Well, we're going to proceed. So what we know is that nothing of this, all the things you're talking about here on one level, Robert, are a reliving, an echo of something else that, since it was a traumatic death, is probably going to be, from their perspective, worse than what you're going through, because you're getting an echo of it. So even if it's a very loud echo, what they're going to say happened to them is going to probably be worse than what happened to you, because you're still alive, or they couldn't handle all of those deaths, so they killed themselves or something. We're going to find out, okay?
Okay.
All right, so that's it out of everything we have to deal with. Whoever's here experiencing I want to die. And it's a karmic past life. Is it a genealogical past life? So it's not your bloodline. It's not a story about your grandmother. There's two kinds of ways soul comes. One is through blood and one is through energy. If it comes through blood, something happened to one of your ancestors, but it says it's not that. So this is energy. So this is like reincarnation. And something happened to you in another karmic lifetime that you're trying to master in this lifetime. And you're re-experiencing it as a way to try to remember it and master it, except we're hopefully going to do it right now. So it says it's karmic. Should we find out anything more through the muscle testing, like when it took place, or where it took place, or who was involved, or what happened, or why it happened, or how it happened, or if it's a story you already know? And it says no, you don't need any more clues. The only clue you need to know is, if you tell me a story about you, it won't be it. If you tell me a story about your blood relatives, it won't be it. But if you tell me a story and you're, a Native American woman and you're watching your whole family get killed and then you get massacred while you're watching it, that could be it. So, okay.
I can tell you, just for a little information. A long time ago, when I was I was a little bitty kid, like 4 years old or stuff, or so. I kept seeing this person, it was in the 1800s, and I was so worried about them because they were in so much pain, and there was no medicine to help them. And I remember that was the first time I was thinking, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm born now, because we've got like medicine and we can help things. And I just remember that worried me so much about this life. I had completely forgotten about that.
By the way, I have goosebumps. It's them.
Yeah, right. I know that now. I had completely forgotten about it. I remember I talked about it for like a week or two, and my mom was like, that's not even real, Robert, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess not. But it was so real to me, because it was like it was like I was this person, and I remember how scared they were, and their family was just around them, and
here's what you need to do, okay? I'm going to tell you how we're going to help them out. Unless you don't know how to help them out, that's part of the problem. All right, so here's what.
I forgot about them, really, until now.
They're still here.
Right, I know they are.
You've been living out their situation, kind of, and we're going to help them out, and that's going to be a win-win proposition, because they think if they can kill you off the way they died, they're going to be able to let go, and it's not true. But they're saying you're sort of living out their life, and it's time for them to let go, or do you let go of them? And I'm going to tell you how to do it. Let's find out how we get there. There's two ways. I think the most elegant way is through a body sensation, and then you'll find out everything. Should we do it through a body sensation? The other way is through trance or hypnosis. It says no to that. We have to do anything to deepen or amplify the sensation? No. Any of the setup or transpersonal questions? No. That means you can, most people like doing it with their eyes closed, but you can do it first or third person, you'll know. And it's only this person's story. We find if there are there any practices to find now? No. Are you fully in state? Yes. So that means that person, they're experiencing, I want to die. That person that you saw. And they're here right now. It says you're in state, which means they're available. So if you want to, most people like doing this with their eyes closed. So if you want to do that, you can do that. Otherwise, you have to turn all your attention in. And you have to fully allow them, and they're here, and they're experiencing, I want to die. And as you're fully allowing them, because they couldn't handle either a horrific situation, so they wish they were dead, or they had a horrific death, as you're allowing them and you're fully letting yourself experience everything you said, but particularly, I want to die, you should start to notice some kind of discomfort right now, even if it's something you've always noticed, whatever is the predominant physical sensation. So just let yourself fully drop into an experience, I want to die, scan your body and tell me what you notice. That will be them. So just scan pain, queasy, headache, sick feeling, tight. What are you noticing in the body right now?
A little queasy and a little tight, but it's not too bad.
That's okay.
Can I tell you something real quick? The other thing I was really worried about, like when I was a kid with this particular individual, was I used to be constantly worried about hurting my back when I was very young, and peritonitis. I didn't even know what that was. And I developed peritonitis. I had developed those issues, both of them. Yeah. I didn't much later, and they must be connected to that individual.
They totally are. It's making me fall off the chair.
I had, when I was little, I kept feeling like they had been hurt somehow in their back, and then their intestines got all messed up from that. Like they had a big wound or something and then I ended up like worrying about hurting my back, which I ended up doing later.
Yes, that was a
total peritonitis.
You unconsciously sort of created that in order to help this person out, believe it or not.
Right. I always knew that. I always felt like it was weird. It was like I was being pulled for something to happen that I didn't want to happen, but I felt like I didn't have any choice. It was going to happen anyway.
Exactly, because you were reliving their story. Now they're here right now, and if you have the queasy feeling, the way to know them is they're here. And if you're feeling the queasy feeling, that's them. The tightness is them. You noticing anything else? Because you may not feel the hurting back. Just scan and tell me, is there anything else, or is it just really queasy and tight? Just scan.
A little bit of queasiness. The tightness is going away up in here now, but queasiness is still there, and that would be digestive related. So
of course. Now this literal, because something's happening. So I want you to become queasiness. That's their name until they tell you their name is something else, which given your capacity, you might find out what their literal name is. But you just want to become queasiness, put all your focus to queasiness and the little bit of tightness that's still there, because I do think that was right. It muscle tested. So you want to become, your new name is queasiness and tightness. And I want you to focus there. And you might become this person, or images that might come back, or just knowing what's happening. But we're going to just talk with whoever this is, and we're going to say, queasiness and tightness, that's your new name. You teach us. What have you come to share with us? Where is this beginning, this thing about completing a death or wanting to die? What's happening to you? Now you just be those two things, and I want you just to report whatever's coming. And if it helps, close your eyes or otherwise, but you want to bring them in, because they have to share their story through your mouth. Just tell us whatever's happening. Just report, just share with us.
I mean, I hear in my head that they made bad choices. They let people down. They got hurt in the process, and they deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they had to go.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But they were in the process of, like, they didn't get this forgiveness from people before they died.
Mm-hmm.
And they hung around hoping that would change, and it never did.
Yep. Yep. Totally, really strong.
Is a man, and he got involved with bad people.
Yep.
1874. I'm sorry, I'm giving you a lot of information. This is just how it's coming through.
No, just however it comes through. That's right. It's all muscle testing, really strong.
And this might sound kind of weird, but like he wasn't a blood relative, like you said, but he knew some of my relatives. That's how the connection was made with me.
Yep. Yep, that's right. Well, it's also you may have been him. It said it was karmic, so it says it's karmic. So I have a feeling. I mean, you can check it out, but it may have been you were him, and he knew some of your blood relatives, because that often happens that we know. You know, there's a little circle of us, and we go through lifetimes together.
Yeah.
It's not like you're being a medium and picking up a ghost. It's like you're knowing what's happening to him because he's like he's a column in your temple, so to speak.
Right. That's exactly what I was about to say. Is there's this connection. This is where it feels like there's the fragment, right? Only in this sense, where I'm living as Robert. His soul is a different soul, but yet I know that they're also connected to me.
Yep.
There's a cord there, a connection.
Yep.
Me as a medium, I can go through and like connect with people, and when I'm in the connection, I feel like I am them, right? Because they're giving me all this information. But once the connection is gone, you know, I can usually will go away. It may stay for a little bit, but then it'll go away. This doesn't do that. This is always there.
Right.
It's always there, and it's always like in the back of my mind, so to speak, more in my subconscious. In fact, a couple of days before you and I started talking, one of my guides was telling me that most of our ancestors, the things that are karmically stored in us, are in our subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they're always with us.
Exactly.
Is it important to find out the mode of death through muscle testing?
Not through muscle testing.
Or
Robert can find it.
Okay.
And it is important.
He was shot.
Yep, he was shot. That's right.
in the gut? That's why he developed.
In the back. He got shot in the back and it went through.
Went shot in the back and it went through. Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
In fact, I had a birthmark on my right side where the bullet came out.
Exactly.
It faded, and he had peritonitis, and he died. He couldn't go. This is going to maybe sound weird to some of these people. I don't know. I guess everybody, this is on the channeling everything, but he couldn't go. He would not go to any doctors or anything because he was going to end up in jail, and he wanted to like say goodbye to people, and he knew he wasn't going to live anyway, even if he went. So he went back to people he knew. There was a woman. I don't know who she was.
Mm-hmm.
But he wanted this forgiveness from people before he died, and he wasn't going to get that if he went to jail.
That's right.
What did he do wrong?
Huh?
What did he do wrong?
He got into bank robbing, like with trains and something with trains. It was like there was with a train, they would try and steal things off trains and stuff. And he got shot, like, you know, during one of those things. He could have made different choices, but that was the one. He was exciting. He wanted to do something exciting, and everything he could have done that wasn't exciting was just not going to be enough. People tried to tell him not to do that. He wouldn't listen. He was stubborn. I can relate to some of that because I can be very stubborn too. But
what about the point of death, though? What about the point of death where you didn't experience the actual death process? Is it important to go through that? I'm just trying to condense things because I don't know how much time you guys have and how much attention span our audience has.
Yeah,
I think they'll have a lot of attention span for this, Elisa.
I think they will. I definitely think they will.
He was.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Robert.
A lot of it for him is he didn't get the death he wanted. He couldn't live through it in that way that was supposed to be like where everybody's around you and they're loved. They loved you so much, and like, you know, you had this closure with your life. He was very young when he died, so he didn't really get to have all those things that he thought in his mind that he wanted, but that rebellious side of him wouldn't allow. And so it wasn't, there was this like, this absence of, this is not how I wanted to go, and I refused to accept it. And nobody will give me this forgiveness I wanted. Why? I mean.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. You got it all. See if there's anything else. Just check for yourself, or see if that's everything he needs to share. You check, because you'll know. You're very good at this, obviously.
He just wanted to be heard. He's been waiting for so many years that he was sorry, and he feels like, I'm feeling like crying because that's how he's like feeling, I guess, his soul, whatever, that part of him that's still human. And that was it, he just wanted to be heard. This is so weird, honestly, because like I've gone through these kinds of things with other people, with spirits, and I never thought felt there was anything like that connected to me. And they usually go through that where they just, they just like, they have this thing that they didn't get to say in the physical world, and because it wasn't said, there's no feeling of completion, and so then the energy just stays here. This little vibration stays here, waiting to be heard.
Well, you just did that, which is the most important thing. But I'm gonna. He doesn't need this, actually. I asked, so you can see if it's true, but you can see if it'll be helpful anyway. All right. Look, what we know is he stayed here. Okay. So here's what I want to invite you to do for him, which is going to be good news for you, and then you can tell me. It's saying you can go directly to the light, but I'm going to see if he needs to make amends. And if he does, then we're going to take him to the time in between lives. And he can make amends with these other people, and something good will happen. But I'm getting he doesn't need to, but you can find out for yourself, okay?
He doesn't. He said a lot of this was because my soul is connected to his. It's really like I'm still in this world and I'm feeling that, and so I needed to release it.
Right. Well, that's what I got too, because if it said it was betrayal, right? Remember I said there were betrayal stories? In that case, you have to find some way to do forgiveness. But I asked, is it betrayal? It said no. It said the key now was he's still stuck here. So we're going to get him unstuck. And here's how we're going to do it, because he's still stuck. So be him again and go right before the moment that you die. Call all the parts back into the body. Now that you know what's happened, we're going to help him let go. So you're going to be him, or you can stand in for him if you like, and you're going to like call all the parts back into the body right before he dies, and then you're going to let yourself, or he's going to let himself fully die, and then leave the body behind and go right through the crown of the head. And tell me when that feels complete.
That was weird. Okay.
Good. Now, you ought to be able to look up and imagine light as him. Now, just go to the light, and it's like you want to do what they always say, which is to become it, to let it be embraced by it so that you are the light. And when it feels like he or you or both of you are the light, just say, I am the light, and I'll muscle test it. Just say it out loud. Really strong. Cool. That's done? Nice. Anything you need to know there? Nope. Okay. So we've got the whole story. We've completed the practice. Nice. We have to make any more connections between that and your life? Nope. All right. Let's find out if it's balanced. You balance the original intention 100% on all levels? Yep. Check levels? Nope. Check intention? Yep. Okay. Here's how I want you to do it. Say with all your conviction, you're going to be him. You're going to standing in for him. We're going to see if he's taken care of. Say a part of me wants to die, and see if there's any charge at all, or if it just feels like none. Say it out loud.
A part of me wants to die.
Okay. Now try no part of me wants to die.
No part of me wants to die.
That goes really strong. See if you feel different. Do you feel different now?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way we're really going to know is we're going to check your field. So we want to know what happened to queasiness and whatever tightness that was there, that was him. Because if you've taken care of him, the queasiness should be gone, because that was his peritonitis and it's no longer here. So why don't you check and see if it feels different?
Yeah, it's gone.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Your back also should feel a little better too, by the way.
Yeah, it doesn't feel stiff like it had been.
It's not as stiff?
No.
Isn't that a great thing?
That is awesome.
Yeah. All right, we're almost done. I have to just finish for you, okay? So let's find out if there are any lessons to learn. Are there? No. So you've learned everything you need to know. I asked like 12 questions to make sure you really got it and you can live your life differently. And there are things like, do you have to anchor it or see how your life will be different? There's a lot of questions. Do you have to ask any of them? Nope. Do you have to affirm this? No. Is it fully affirmed? That means all parts of you are in alignment with it. Deepest wisdom, highest guidance, source guides, including Erik and including this one. Anything more for this one, the one we call Robert's Healing and Highest Good, for that one, that man's and for all before we leave this work, it says no. So is the work on this complete? Yes. Is it done? I'll just find out. Is there anything else? No. Is our work complete for now? And we're done for now. That was beautiful work, Robert. So take a moment. And if there's anything you want to say about how you are or what that was like, or if you have any reflections or anything about the process or doing this or doing it in front of thousands of people, if anything at all, floor is yours. And if there's nothing, that's fine. If you just want to be quiet, that's fine too.
No, it's I just never realized. I just honestly, I don't know what to say, but it's like there's too many things coming through. I always kind of poo-pooed, like, oh, past lives, that ain't gonna affect you. I mean, I knew they were there, but I was like, you're living this life, I learned that was, my little Aries cockiness, I guess, because, but it was also me, I guess, in some way trying to, assert boundaries and control and
maybe avoid the memory of that life, maybe.
Yeah, that too, I suppose. But so it just never occurred to me that I would have something like that, that could be influencing me in this life. But when I, think back on those things and stuff, I realized that I was always being pulled in the direction of something that didn't seem like it was me ever, and I didn't know why it was there or what it was. It's so interesting. I'm gonna be like thinking about this because I'm gonna nerd out on this one for a while.
I know you are. It takes time to digest.
I like to learn new stuff. That's so interesting to me. I like to learn new things, and the only way I can learn things is sometimes you learn through observation, and other times, just strictly being, third party. You're not connected to it. And other times you have to be immersed in it, and then you get this, explosion of new information. And both ways are fun, but some things you can only learn one way or the other. This was one of those where I had to be in it. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I want you to know you gave me a gift. You gave Elisa, I would say, she can speak for herself. And I think you just probably gave a lot of people a gift by sharing what you gave, because in a sense, you gave it as a gift because a lot of people will have a chance to open to new possibilities. And that is strictly because you really, when you do it like this, you're like really making a contribution to a very large collective, and it really is moving.
Yeah, it takes courage. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Dr. Andy.
Thank you. That's so funny. You just mentioned this to me a couple of days ago. I was like, okay, why not? Erik was like, dude, do it. Why not? I'm like, sure. So it was great.
So, Dr.
Hahn, just Robert, if there's anything more, once I do work with this, like with people, I feel like if you want to do anything else, or you want to ask me questions, you feel free to get in touch with me, because that's the way this works. When you give a gift like this, I sort of like want to make sure you feel cared for and that you get what you need. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And perhaps if you ever come down to Houston, it'd be cool to meet in person.
Oh, he will. He definitely will. So, okay. Dr. Hahn, could you tell people how to get in touch with you and anything else you want to share?
The first thing I want to share is that I think Robert really, I mean, I don't know if Robert's still there, but
I am.
I really want to say I think you gave a gift, and not only that, this is, we did another session which people will see that was a very very different kind of session than this. This, believe it or not, is a much more standard session. A lot of people, their first sessions are past life death wishes. And you're extraordinary because you're so attuned that what other people know, you can speak to in a slightly different way because, and it's funny to say I poo-poo, other lifetimes, but, people poo-poo mediums too. So it's like,
I know, it's so funny. Everybody's poo-pooing somebody else.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, the people who believe in aliens don't believe in curses, and the people who believe in curses don't believe in aliens, and the people who believe in aliens don't believe in other lifetimes. It's amazing to me. I say, why not open to everything,
Well, for me, it was more of I think it was just me, like, trying to say, you know what, I'm not going to allow that stuff to have control over me. Because I knew that past lives exist. I had connected with my own and things like that. I just like, in my mind, I approached it as, but that life has no power over me in this one.
I will tell you.
But it can.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, in my experience, there are a lot of people who've done an amazing amount of very good healing, but they're still stuck. And the reason they're stuck is they don't think to look beyond this life. Yeah. And I could tell you story after story after story where if you just worked in this lifetime in traditional ways, you could do unbelievably good work, but it isn't where things crystallized.
Erik just gave me a good example he said to give. He said, think about when you're around someone who's not feeling well and you're around them all the time, right? Think of that as like one of your past lives. And that life is always like that. When you're in that energy, it drains you, right? It makes you feel bad. You feel like depressed now and things like that and all those kinds of things. And, for a human being, we look for reasons why. I mean, because we're sad that they're ill, we're this, that, and the other, but we're being affected by that energy regardless.
Well, not only just affected, I mean, I think what Erik says is profoundly true, but look at your situation. Like, stomach problems. Well, it's not just like it's a heavy energy. It's a heavy energy that's playing out in, their peritonitis plays out in your gut issues, and your back pain is that you were shot in the back, and your birthmark is like, literally a manifestation of a gunshot wound that came out in a certain spot that was a birthmark. So like, I think what he says is profoundly true, but it's so laser-like. It's not just like you're in a heavy, dense energy, and you'll like, lose people, and he lost all these people. You'll just live out their lives in very, very focused ways, like, and all these things are clues.
Your history of back pain and also your small bowel obstruction and your peritonitis, it's just all coming together.
Yeah.
I have to sign off here pretty soon, but I don't want to go without letting you, Dr. Hahn, without letting you share your information, how people can get in touch with you.
All right. Well, the way to get in touch with us is our website is Life Centered Therapy, Life, L-I-F-E, centeredtherapy.com. And you can just write to us at info@lifecenteredtherapy.com. Our phone number there is 781-891-7448. That will get you to our administrator, whose name is Reza. And if you want to do work, all things sort of flow through him in terms of that. But we do work with people, and we've trained a lot of people, so you can get, you may not be able to get to me, but that doesn't, I mean, the beauty of this thing, when hopefully, I don't know, when we come to Houston, we were hoping, when we come to Houston, you can train people to do a simple version of this in a few days, That's and awesome. You get really remarkable results, so, but we'll come down, I hope, hopefully maybe in the fall or something, and, you can see it and witness it, and we'll either do a lot of healing or we'll teach you how to do it and give you demonstrations of it. And and if you want to do trainings, we're starting a training soon. That's up in Massachusetts. So you have to come to us. It's in about 6 weeks. So it's like, if you want to come here and learn how to do this, you can come for a weekend, and it's a year-long training, but it stands by itself if you want to just experience it. And thank you so much, Elisa. You have been so supportive.
Think of all the people, if you get trained, guys, how many people you could heal. It's so powerful. Thank you, Robert, for having the courage to do this. Thank you, Dr. Andy, for your time. And I love you guys. I'll put his information here, I promise. Bye.
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 Bye, Eric. I love you.
He's like, love you too, Mom. I was distracted. I heard him say it, and I was like, oh.